On this show, you'll find inspiration, motivation, and advice from experts, as well as valuable tips on how to get started or improve your business. Let's dive into how you can begin and grow your wisdom business. Inspiring others looks different for everyone. How will you inspire? Well, welcome to the Wise Dome podcast, and today we're chatting with Kate McCauley. Welcome to the Wise Dome podcast, Kate.
Thank you so much for having me, Nikki. I'm excited to chat today.
Well, it's lovely having you here, and you work with many businesses out there, so that's fantastic to have you on here, because I would love to know and get you to share with our audience what it is that you do for businesses out there.
Sure. So my journey started in the education world, and someone recently said to me it was a long beginning, which was an interesting twist, because when I initially was making that shift after 20 years as an educator in the public school system to jump into my business full time, it was just a little side hustle because, if I'm being completely honest, I was creating an exit strategy. The work environment had become toxic. And it was nothing to do with the kids. That's a whole different podcast topic. But anyway, I was, shifting out of that. And really, that is how this has grown. So what I do now, I used to Google, what else can I do with my teaching skills? Or what else can I do with my teaching degree? And now I focus on the skills that I gained over the course of all of those 20 years. And ironically, the part that was the craziest, which was teaching during the COVID era, helped me do what I do now. The fact that we're even talking, and the businesses that I work with around the world, not just in the United States where I'm located, but what I do is I like to describe it as I find people to love. And when they have a problem, I want to be a part of the solution. So in doing that, I focus on mindset, and I do that through workshops. I do it in a speaking engagement platform, sometimes virtually and a lot of times in person. And I also coach women one-to-one on mindset. I am obsessed with the brain and how the brain works. I did a lot of that work when I was an educator. I've done the internal work myself, and my son my littlest guy has unique educational needs. So I've done a lot of this work with him as well. So now I'm really just in a space where I get to guide people to really tap into the answers that are within them. And I'm that guide on the side, I like to say.
Yeah. Well, it's, 20 is like the beginning. I love that. 20 years was the beginning of your career.
Right.
But isn't it interesting how just, our external environment can really just sort of set in at a particular stage and just sort of boost you along to your next stages of development and so forth. When it came to your decision of saying, okay, I'm going to do this, when did that sort of trigger you? So the reason I'm asking you this is because people in our audience might be thinking of moving, and, obviously being in a career that 20-year-long career, and obviously you have that connection with your kids and so forth, to extract yourself from that and move into this field. What triggered you to do that?
So I don't know if there was a main story, I will tell you that, but I do want to say, in addition to that example that someone said to me, wow, Kate, that was a long beginning. It was an interesting way to look at it. 6 years prior to resigning, I resigned officially in April of 2021. But 6 years prior to that, after spring conferences that we have to meet with the parents, I was leaving the building, and I walked into a situation where a 14-year-old boy was on a bike, and he was pointing a gun at a student and his mother. And because I was walking, my car was parked, catty corner to that area. Of course, I reacted, started screaming. The gun was then turned in my direction out of, I think, instincts. This was a boy. And when I reflect back on it, I think, oh my God, this 14-year-old boy, like, what brought him to this space? But I wasn't saying that then. I was saying some choice words, telling, the police to get to the situation. He ended up fleeing, thank goodness, no one was injured, but it was a loaded gun, which I later found out it was a long night. But that is really where the moment that I can say, I know I need to leave However, Nikki, I wasn't ready. I will tell you, I was exactly where I was meant to be every single
Mm,
step of my journey to where I am now. But
yeah.
when COVID hit, I still wasn't ready to leave, actually. But my school district and a lot of school districts were making some interesting decisions educationally. And one of
Right.
those was, okay, you're going to be home for the rest of this school year. My children had to make decisions. Are you staying home? Are we bringing them back? Is it hybrid? Because my youngest guy has a beautiful, unique brain, he was
Hmm.
actually thriving at home because I was his one-to-one, helping,
Yeah.
in between my virtual teaching. And then my school district said, "No, never mind, in a professional way, kind of professional. We have to have the teachers come back for 2 weeks for state testing, but the kids aren't coming in. They're still going to be on the computer." It was crazy. And I said, no,
Mm,
I chose my family. I chose myself. And it was a
mhm.
moment where I realized this is an opportunity for me to take a leap of faith and
Yeah.
really just jump into. I was already doing the coaching thing. I had all my certifications, my business insurance, all that good stuff was in place, but I was
Yeah.
still afraid to
But yeah,
even
to
jump
take that
into
step.
it. But so faith, I don't want to say I was forced, but in a way I had to make a decision, and that's how it ended up to be where I am right now.
But that's fantastic. It's, but just you saying that you had everything all ready to go, you just had to take that leap. How many of us do that and we procrastinate on the whole, oh, I'm still writing my course or I'm still writing my program. It's just jump in. And obviously you've got a teaching background. So, the planning and preparing and everything like that is just instilled in you in that sense. So when
Yes.
you came across moving into that process of coaching, you could be planning to the cows come home, but you had to market yourself. So how did you get yourself out there?
So at first, ironically, I was just thinking, all right, I'm going to go on social media and, not tell the personal people in my life, because what would the neighbors think, the other teachers? How could she possibly leave a 20-year
Yeah.
career? And who
Mm.
is she? All those limiting beliefs were
Yeah.
creeping in my brain.
Mm.
So when I look back now, I've kept those things on my Instagram as a reminder of how much I have evolved. But I was following trends and just saying, like, listen to this great thing that I wasn't even talking as a speaker or a coach. And now I do it very differently, but it has evolved, definitely. I'm on a podcast tour, just to get the word out about mindset and how we can change our brains to actually befriend fear and take those steps. And I am a completely different woman from
Yeah.
that woman I spoke about in April of 2021, because I did that internal work, and yes, those skills of an educator to plan, I have my week, I have things I do every single day. I have procedures which help me as a business
Yeah.
owner now, but I make decisions now in a very different way. When
Mm.
I have an affirmation on my board, it's over here on the other side of my office, that says, I am the missing piece to every opportunity that presents itself to me. So when an opportunity comes my way, I make a decision fairly quickly. And I
Yeah.
think, you know what, I'm going to trust myself on this. And if I fail, lessons learned,
Listen,
victories
yeah.
earned kind of thing, but I really think that in a way, all of those, skills as an educator still help me, but I definitely have changed. I'm a different woman now.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And do you think those changes have evolved? Obviously, there's, like you said, you've worked on yourself and evolved through the way. Did any of those changes come from, and they probably did, but come from, the people that you've worked with and how you share? Because obviously, I'm guessing it's different,
mhm,
sharing knowledge with kids to adults can be slightly different to a degree.
sure.
Did
Mhm.
those changes change you in a way as well? Or
I'm so glad you asked that question, because I was reflecting just before we were speaking about my journey. I like to do that before I'm going to talk with anyone.
yeah,
And really, every single person that I have had an interaction with, if it's a client, one-to-one coaching, if it's in my group coaching
mm,
setting, if it is at a speaking engagement or a workshop, on my podcast tour, I gain every
mm,
single time. And
yeah,
I am open and I listen now. The
yeah,
reason why I'm a speaker is because when I was doing the coaching thing and just putting that out there on LinkedIn and Instagram, and my personal page is like, okay, that was actually the scariest part. But when I started putting it out there, someone reached out to me. I was doing a little bit of virtual speaking for free. And someone reached out to me who now is my talent coordinator to book me for speaking engagements. She reached out, which I'm not usually a fan of the cold reach out on some of the, platforms, but I just felt something there, and yes, it's those people who are saying to me, hey, you need to put this out into the world more. More people need to hear this from you. You have a skill as an educator to deliver this, so yes, absolutely. The people that I have had interactions with at all different levels, I'm so grateful for them and myself for being able to be open to listen, because I know for a long time as an educator, I kept saying, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. I have a retirement, all these
following
things.
It. Yeah.
Right. And I was refusing to listen to those opportunities that were there, but as I said, I do truly believe I was in the right place at the right time, so.
Yeah. Yeah. And, when it comes to teaching and sharing and coaching, interacting with those people, whether it's one-to-one or one-to-many, what is the biggest thing that maybe you have changed, or like you said, you've evolved in the way you actually share your knowledge across to those who are listening?
So when I first started this journey, I have a lot of certifications as an educator, as a certified coach. I did I'm a woman-owned certified business. I did all of these things really before I was coaching a couple people who reached out to me. I'm like, are you guys serious? That, I just told like, hey, I got this certification, and I started to do it like, are you guys sure about this? And I told them, it's beta type program and all that good stuff. But originally what I would say has changed is I first would tell people all of those long lists of things that I have obtained, which I do value, but now, of course, I will share them if people want to know, what's your backstory? Who are you, Kate? But now I really focus on the transformation that my clients gain, that people at workshops say, I cannot wait to go out and try this. I focus on those things and what people tell me, and I listen. When a client just told me last week on the phone, my entire day changes after I talk to you. I do bi-weekly for that client, and she actually said, I really think we should do this every week, and I start to listen to what they say, and I share those transformations with people. And not that I don't value all of those things that I've done, but it's not really about me. At first I thought, because as a teacher, you have to show, obviously I have a degree, I'm taking all these continued education courses. So I had this perception that everyone wanted to know, did you do all the things? Right. But now I am more focused on, this is the transformation. And I will tell you, not everyone is for me. I'm from outside of Philadelphia here in the States, and I bring a keeping it real vibe that some people are like, okay. And it's tough love, in some ways, but I can always sense if we're going to vibe, when I have a call, and I really focus differently now. Instead of sharing, of course, I'll tell them what I've done, but a little different.
But it's all based on, like, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you go from an industry or career that is all based, like you said, on the qualifications and everything, whereas now it's all based on experience. Like, they really want to know that you've experienced what they're going through, or understand how to sort of, create solutions out of the problems that they have and overcome them. So with respect to, you've gone through this amazing journey, and you've set yourself up and everything, is there anything further that you're looking at sort of expanding or doing? Because obviously you're going on this podcast thing, and obviously I'm taking it as you're building up your trust, you're building up your brand, but are you looking to evolve the business in any particular way, or stick with the talks and everything like that?
So I have an open mindset to that. Originally I thought I would just coach women, and I would work with the women who were me, the prior version of myself, and be able to guide them on this journey. And it has continuously evolved. I absolutely feel fire inside me when I do the workshops and I do the speaking engagements. And I am starting to notice that I could get my words out and help more people. If I do it on a bigger scale like that, I am leaning towards, and I do it on a small scale for places who have requested it right now, but I'm really leaning towards creating a personal development membership where businesses can, we can access each other and I can help keep them accountable in a way that can be delivered with actionable steps, that they could use as leadership or their employees. It's still something floating around the brain, but I feel it pulling on my heartstrings. And like I said, a couple people have mentioned it to me, like, we would love for you to talk to our team. I keep hearing that. And I'm like, I could maybe, yeah. So it's starting. And so I would guess, Nikki, if we talked in 6 months or a year from now, that I would probably have some new exciting things that I could say, guess what I'm doing now, so I'm excited for the journey. Definitely.
Yeah, that's good. And it's good to have an open mind, isn't it, when you're going through this journey, because you don't know how it's going to what direction it may take. You got to always listen, don't you? You always have to listen to who you're working with, because you pick up the little indicators of, okay, this is where they're all wanting.
They keep saying the same thing.
And they recognize the things in you that you might not necessarily recognize as well. God, that's happened how many times to so many people that I've spoken to. And, my background's in interiors, not in creating a SaaS platform. It's just right. Not. But, my journey has gone towards businesses as well. It's interesting, isn't it? What's the biggest challenge you've come across in this whole journey?
Oh, I would say the biggest challenge was when I actually, resigned, and that feeling of, did I make the right decision? It was April, which isn't standard for educators. Usually would wait till the end of the school year, but with the strange COVID era and having to make that decision, I had to do it a little bit differently. And then that end of the school year was difficult for me, because I left a place that had a lot of issues and the students brought trauma. However, they were wonderful humans, and I was able to help many of those kids be successful. Really, a lot of what I do now with the adults. But then that fall, when we were going back to school, there was a lot of tears. And in times when things fail in my business, I sometimes will find myself going back, it'd be much easier if I just went back and did it. It's a roller coaster, definitely, of emotions. But then the second part, I would say, which is difficult, although I'm embracing it now because people are starting to tell me, but putting it out there to my friends and family on my personal pages. And ironically, that's where a lot of my business began. But I was so afraid to tell people that because, again, like, really, Kate, you were a teacher for 20 years.
Yeah.
But I have noticed that even though people aren't, like sharing everything or loving everything, I don't want to be an influencer. I want to make an impact. But people tell me in my personal life, if I'm at a sporting event for my kids, I'm at a wedding with my cousins, wherever, they will say, we always love to see what you put there. I'm like, I didn't even know you were looking.
Look at you.
You never know. So I love to hear that because I know that if they're looking, other people are too, and hopefully it's making a difference. And, when I have presented it, no one has given me any type of, negative feedback that I was afraid of. So I guess it was the fear. Befriending the fear is probably one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah. And you mentioned something there too about not wanting to be an influencer. And I love that because I was actually having a conversation with someone on the weekend about, it's not about being an influencer. It's about being influential. And, it's being out there, and it's very hard, like getting back to your point of putting yourself out there to your personal life. It is really hard, isn't it, to sort of break that differentiation of it's okay. It's all,
especially because, I have coaches. I have business coaches, 2 of them, and a speaker coach. And, they're like, they want to see what you're doing, and I'll put a little bit of it there, but I'm like, do they really want all of this? They're like, they do. The people do want this. But so that part is strange in a way. And then on my personal side, I'm like, do they want to see the business?
Do they want to see? And then they're too well.
Like, they're like, why didn't you tell us about this? I'm like, I don't know. It's my personal page, so it's an interesting world. And I will say that someone recently said, I can't take credit for this, like hustling these internet streets, like trying to figure it all out.
That's such a good
Right.
way of
And
putting it. Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. And I used to worry, what would I say? And I would videotape myself numerous times for reels and all the things that we're supposed to be doing. And now I still sometimes will delete and do it again, but sometimes I just throw something on there and that's the one that gets 14,000 views. I'm like, why? So it's, who
Because they
knows,
know it's real. They know it's real. That's why.
probably.
And I always love asking my guests, what legacy are you looking to leave? Personal, business?
So I love this question, but I would say personally first, I have 3 children. They're all teenagers right now. So, we're in the thick of it. And I know that they're seeing what I'm doing. And I love that they're, getting a little piece of me that goes along with them. So that's probably my personal legacy. And I'm excited to watch their journey because they're all very uniquely different. And it's going to be fun to see how this. I hope I can hold back the tears as they get older. He's going to graduate next year, the oldest. But then my professional legacy, I always say love and brilliance at the end of, I wish you love and brilliance to everyone at the end of like my emails. I say at the end of reels, I say it everywhere. And the reason I say that is because I do really want to express a deep love. I have loved students that I worked with and teachers I collaborated with. I absolutely love my clients, and that's why I choose to work with them, whether it's one-to-one, whatever, workshops, speaking engagements, they literally become a part of me. And that love, I would just want to say that I have a deep love there. So love and brilliance. The brilliance part is I want to give that wisdom and, something intelligent that you can take. I'm obsessed with the brain and how it works and the power of unlocking your potential there. So I think love and brilliance, if people think of me as, she really did put love out into the world. She loved her people, those who work for her and the ones I serve. And then the brilliance, I hope they take a little nugget of wisdom from me, and I hope I'm an old lady somewhere and they'll be like, Lady Kate McCauley said that. So that's what I would say for the legacy. So we'll see how it plays out.
Love it. Love it. And you touched on something. I was literally about to ask this question next. Obviously the very beginning, you mentioned how much you love the brain. You just mentioned it just now again. What is it about the brain specifically that really gets you passionate?
So I love the fact that we can rewire our brains and what we focus on will become our reality, the reticular activating system, without getting all neuroscience with you. It is so powerful. And I don't think that everyone truly believes it. They think this is woo-woo, but once you start doing that mindset work and you have someone to guide you and say, it's not a magic pill, it's not going to happen tomorrow. But if you continuously do this, you can retrain your brain. Does that mean you get rid of all of the stress and roller coasters I was talking about? No, of course not. But you can handle things in a way where you are happier and healthier. And I just love it's like an aha moment when I was a teacher, when they would get it. And, when I see something happen, because I tell my clients, you're not with me forever. I love you. But the goal is for you to create these habits, retrain your brain, and then come back to me if you want to, check in, or if you need a little like shift again, whatever. But when I then see it happen for them, I become this major hype girl, like, yes, I knew, look what's happening in your brain, so that's what I would say, the rewiring of the brain.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that, because I'm obsessed with how people learn.
Right.
Creating the platform we have. Now, have you got any offer that you'd like to share with our audience today?
I would love to offer anyone who is listening to set up a free mindset breakthrough call. And during this call, it is not a pressure for you to work with me. As a matter of fact, usually at the end, we both will know, is this a good fit? Sometimes it turns into, yes, Kate, let's go into coaching. Sometimes people say, hey, maybe you could come to a workshop for our people, but I guarantee you that at the end of that call, whether you decide to work with me or someone else or no one at all, you will have little takeaways that you can go do. And then you're going to send me a message. You're going to say, are you like a witch doctor or something? How did you do this with our brain? And I just love sharing it with people. So anyone who, vibes with you and listens to your show, I would love to connect with them and make sure they tell me, that they heard you and I chat, because I do like to know how, people
found you, of course. Yeah. Well, thank you so much again, Kate, for your time today. I really, really appreciate it. And I just love that you have this obsession with the brain because I'm just so on your tune right there.
Love it. Well, thank
But
you so much. It was great to talk with you. I appreciate it.
oh, thank you so much, honey. And look, all of Kate's offer details and everything will be in our podcast summary below. Be sure to click on the link and don't forget to subscribe to the Wise Zone podcast. Kate, again, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Wise Dome podcast. If you enjoyed and have been inspired by this episode and you'd like to support the podcast, do subscribe and please share it with others. Post about us on social media or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, Nikki Kelly, you can follow me on Instagram at Wise Dome Podcast, WISEDOME Podcast. I'm Nikki Kelly. Thanks again, and we'll catch up next time.